Welcome back. Next segment here, we're going to talk about Kyle Lowry in a second. Get to some of your comments right here, your questions. Big O says, is Jason Tatum waiting for year 10? Look, I got buddies who are Boston fans, and one of them's our morning anchor, Eric Yutzi. And he said the other day, he said, man, if Jason Tatum needs to step up in these situations, he definitely does. And look, game 4, fourth quarter, there was a stretch where he certainly did. But I think Celtics fans are still waiting for that, right? And for him to kind of show what Jimmy Butler has shown, which is the ability to capture the moment. You know, we're talking about players that have that sixth sense and being able to take over games when it matters the most. And let me find who brought up CP3 here, which was a really good.
Yes, that's a great comment. Analogy.
AKW Beats. Yeah, he says LeBron, Dame, and CP3. I'd say CP3, LeBron, and Jimmy Butler just kind of on their own plane right there. And then Greater Good makes a comment. Pat Riley's always talked about players that step up in the dance. And, you know, I think this is, and to kind of put a cap on the whole Jimmy Butler discussion, the Heat have built this team in Jimmy Butler's image and Eric Spoelstra's image and Pat Riley's image. And it's so when we're talking about Jimmy Butler, maybe it is a case that Jimmy Butler is in a situation where he can thrive because the Heat have built. But look, man, I mean, this was a different discussion a few weeks ago when he and Eric Spoelstra are yelling and screaming at each other in the huddle. The fact that they've been able to spin it forward and get to where they are now and potentially on the verge of the Eastern Conference Finals, I think is pretty impressive. So Kyle Lowry, and you know, it was not a surprise to me whatsoever that he was out yesterday. Sure. Do you think this is a better team without him right now?
That's a tough one because there's two Kyle Lowrys. So obviously you're asking about the current Kyle Lowry. Do I believe the Heat are a better team without a compromised Kyle Lowry who is 50% speed of that because of that hamstring strain? Sure. I mean, Kyle Lowry is 36 years old, and at this point, 50% of that Kyle Lowry is just another guy. And Kyle was trying to push pace with the pitch-ahead pass like he does all year, but he couldn't push the ball, which he hasn't done that much in the first place and certainly can't right now either. So I think that was a no-brainer. I also think Gabe Vincent in a starting role is like the little engine who could and gets this team going a little bit more. But again, Clay, this is what you and I have spoken about on our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show now, Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. on the Big O show for the last, got it all in there, for the last 2 or 3 months. And it's this, the ultimate goal is always something bigger. The ultimate goal for the Miami Heat was not winning Game 5, although they certainly needed to. The ultimate goal is not winning Game 6. The ultimate goal is a championship. So you want to see if you still could get Kyle Lowry back to the best of Kyle. There have been moments this season, I forgot which game it was, you might remember, when he had like a 20-point fourth quarter and almost rallied the Heat, and he was everything. So you want to get that Kyle back. But Kyle Lowry compromise is really interesting, Clay. As a matter of fact, we're going to play one of our lightning round things here that totally unscripted, okay? I'm going to give you a percentage. You say yes or no. If Kyle Lowry was 90% of Kyle Lowry, would you want him on the court? 90%?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. If Kyle Lowry was 80% of Kyle Lowry, would you want him on the court?
Yes.
70.
Gray area.
60.
No.
So this is the perfect example. And as we all know, medicine's an imperfect science. So you don't know. There's no little like, oh, let's check under the hood here. Oh, Kyle's at 72 today. We know that. You don't really know. So it really is instinctual from the Heat medical staff, from Kyle Lowry, and from the Heat coaching staff, what you should put him out there. He should not have been out there in Game 4 and maybe even come back in Game 3 in this series. But here's the thing, and these are the kind of analytics I don't need Cooper Moorhead for because I can figure it out. The Heat are 5-0 in these playoffs with Gabe Vincent starting in place of Kyle Lowry. Now, I've put that through my computer, and the tape has come out. For old people used to have tapes come out, and it says that's a really good thing, 5-0. So I almost wonder, Clay, if Kyle Lowry shows up tomorrow, I don't think they'll shoot around in Philly, but if they do, and he says, you know what, I feel like I'm 70, 75%. I think it's going to put Eric Spoelstra in a tough spot. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Kyle travels with the team. He's from Philadelphia. He's not going to pass up a trip home. So I think people, when you see today, Kyle Lowry's traveling to Philadelphia, don't overstate that. Knowing the Heat, they will list him as questionable. The Heat list everyone as questionable. It's like if you ask the Heat, is tomorrow Thursday? They'll go, that's questionable. We'll get back to you on that. That's just how they do it. But I would agree. I think that Kyle Lowry is out. And these are going to be tough decisions for the Heat. One, Kyle Lowry came here to win a championship. Kyle Lowry came here to play in these games. He wants to be out there. But I think Eric Spoelstra has to say, hey, unless we get to a moment of truth, we don't have to do it, which brings Sunday into play. If the Heat don't win tomorrow at Wells Fargo Center, and they do have to come back on Sunday, again, you're 1 week removed from Kyle Lowry's last action. Well, the last time we thought 2 weeks removed from that April 22nd injury was enough, and it wasn't. So this is going to get really dicey for Eric Spoelstra. Because, Clay, if you are playing a Game 7, and I'm not being Nancy negative right here, I'm just saying if there's a chance you might have to go to a Game 7, that'll mean something didn't go perfectly in Game 6. That Gabe Vincent's undefeated record as a playoff starter has come to an end. So then it gets a little bit interesting. So I think the questions you're asking me now about Kyle really are Sunday questions, really are questions of if the Heat don't win this one. And the other question would then be if they do open Sunday against Boston or Milwaukee, because that series ends in 6 games, then the other part of the equation was, do you even bring Kyle back then for a, I don't want to say meaningless Game 1. I don't want to overstate it here, but for a Game 1 in a series or let him get more time, this is such an unknown. Everyone knows with a soft tissue injury, with a hamstring, there are no givens. Even the us here, the two of us, me and the guy over there can tell you, we know when we pull a groin muscle or a hamstring, you never feel confident the next time out that the strain won't turn into a tear. And we all have that moment when we try to, whether it's me at my age or Clay at his age, do that little bit of explosion, me in the tennis court, Clay on the hoops court, and you go to yourself, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I'm in trouble now. Guys, I'm tapping out. Bring someone else in. This is a really tough decision, but it's not for the simple reason you're 5-0 with Gabe Vincent as a starter. Part 2 of this equation was, well, if Gabe starts, who fills in? Victor Oladipo was just fine in that role.
Yeah,
one thing I was
going to say you took the words out of my mouth as far as that extra element there. Go ahead. No, go for it.
The other element in this equation is it'd be a lot easier if Tyler Hero was also the best of Tyler Hero. Then I feel even better. He's been very uneven so far in the playoffs. So they've had to rely on Vic. Vic's first stint last night was tremendous. He came in, he provided energy. It was like, crap, Jimmy's out of the game and we're getting no relief because of this former all-star guy. So I thought that was really interesting also. And the post-game was fascinating. I don't know if you saw Vic's interview, where I try to cast him as a complimentary player. Joe Varden from The Athletic tried to cast him as a complimentary player. Yes. And Vic, and God bless Vic, I ain't no complimentary player. I'm just playing one in this series. So you know what? If he's going to have that sort of stubbornness, God bless him, because it helps. So what I'm saying is this, is that Gabe plus Vic right now have proven to be good enough to allow you to sit Kyle Lowry. But at some point, you're going to need a Kyle Lowry level point guard because the challenges will get tougher.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer that you can't put yourself in the shoes of a superstar caliber athlete when it comes to injuries. And but to your point about what you just said, there is a natural there's a natural inclination in any human being. It's just there that when you start to feel something, you're going to hesitate. That's just instinctive. Your body is meant to protect itself. And Correct. So Kyle Lowry the other day, I thought it was fascinating when he was talking about, I've never dealt with a soft tissue injury before. I'm not used to this. So while I'm a firm believer that you can't say, oh, what Ira just said normally. Oh, well, when I'm on the tennis court, when I'm playing basketball, and I feel it. No, it's not the same thing. In this case, I think you can draw some parallels because Lowry himself admitted, I'm not used to this. So when you watched him the other night and you could see him kind of pull up a few times, it happened quite a few times. And there was a certain point where the Heat were just like, nah, this isn't working, pulled him out. Right, he went to the locker room, came back, and just wasn't the same. So I think it's a simple equation. If it is a healthy Kyle Lowry plus a Gabe Vincent off the bench and Victor Oladipo going back to whatever the role was before, yeah, they're better than the current version of the Miami Heat, and even what we saw last night. But if it is a 60% Kyle Lowry, maybe even worse, and a Kyle Lowry who's trying to figure out how to play with this, plus Gabe Vincent, Victor Oladipo, no, they're not as good as the current version of what we saw last night. So I think the thing with Lowry and the Heat medical staff is going to have to make this determination. You're right, Ira. The goal is the championship. Not only am I not playing him tomorrow night, I may not play him in a game 7, even if he's kicking and screaming and wants to play. Like at what point? But Ira, it's you got to play the guys who are going to give you the best chance to win. You can't coddle Kyle Lowry. And again, this is the hypothetical world where he's like begging to play and like I don't. Maybe you play him, and in the first moment where he doesn't look like Kyle Lowry, you have a
and he'll know it.
You pull him out.
And he'll know it. Here's the greater question. And Big O in our crosstalk mentioned this at the top of the show, and I know it's something he wants us to get into. I mentioned it today in my Ask Ira at sunsentinel.com. You signed a 36-year-old point guard for 3 years at $85 million, taking him through his 38th birthday.
Right.
We'd all agree when it comes to the Heat conditioning program, Kyle Lowry does not look like your typical Heat rebuilt body, what they've done over the years. And they've clearly let him slide because Kyle Lowry in that body type has been more than good enough through his 36th birthday to accomplish what he needs to accomplish.
Well, let me interrupt you because I want to get some clarification on this. You're around this team a lot. Is it like, do you know that, have you heard, hey, he's not having to do the same stuff because when when Big O mentioned the conditioning stuff, is there reason to believe that he's not doing the same thing other guys are? So kind of take people behind the curtain because I want to be fair to this.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have this conditioning test before the season where you have to run suicides, and it's based on your positional type, what type of time you have to make. And I think there have been a ton of allowances.
He looks like me.
Yes, exactly. It's like it's exactly the question of, you know what, Clay, even beyond what he's been allowed to do or not allowed to do, sometimes it's just the eye test. Sometimes it's just when he had those khakis on the other day on the Heat bench, and you're going to yourself, we'll step back here going, not maybe the best look right there, for what he was wearing that day, but it works. And Pat Riley did the same thing with Tim Hardaway. He let Tim Hardaway be Tim Hardaway until it reached a point where he said to himself, you know what? At his age, this doesn't work anymore. And you might remember this. He gave him a huge 1-year balloon payment, but Tim had to come in for weigh-ins every week or two. And if he didn't make it, he would lose hundreds of thousands of dollars as part of his deal. I think at a certain point, Big O's popping in and popping out here. I think at a certain point, you're going to have to step back with Kyle and say, you know what? There weren't other teams giving you 3 years at $85 million. There were teams concerned, one, about your age naturally, but about other things. And I'm curious to see if Kyle has a buy-in to that, or if Kyle says this, look, when I was out there, we were fine. I missed one game during the regular season due to injury. That was an ankle at the road opener of the season in October. Everything else was either COVID or personal reasons. I've had one injury, like you mentioned, his first soft tissue injury, this hamstring, and maybe there's pushback there also. But I would think that if a team went that far to guarantee you at that level of pay above $25 million a year at age 38, that maybe you meet them halfway. But I got to tell you, he's a stubborn SOB. And he believes that he knows what's best and how to do it. And when he's at his best, he might have an argument because he still is a really good defender. And he really can be a dynamic offensive player. But you've got to protect that investment also. I am curious if Pat sort of brings him into the suite there and says, you know what? I've been through this with Tim Hardaway. I'm not going through this again.
Well, and I'm glad you bring up that comparison because there is a history, there is a precedent with this thing. And, the question that you and I have had from the beginning of this season, it's, look, if the Heat are healthy, if they do this, the best of the Heat, yeah, absolutely, they're a championship contender. There's not a doubt in our mind. But the best of the Heat is a healthy Kyle Lowry helping lead this team. And we said from the beginning, when your core is older, when you've got a 36-year-old point guard, when you've got PJ Tucker, who's 37?
Yeah, 37, right? And Jimmy, who's turning 33. Yeah.
Turning 33. That is the big question that people have been asking. Can it work in a young man's league? Can it work when a 33, 36, and 37-year-old player, when those are the guys who are in many ways
and you have two of your three answers. Jimmy Butler looked as good last night and certainly on Sunday as he ever has. PJ Tucker, and I wish people could either go to the arena or get the full view of the court. This guy, every second he plays is relentless. Don't talk to me about his age. This guy is unyielding. So of the gambles the Heat took, I know Big always talks about Jimmy Butler's contract takes him through his 36th birthday. The fact that PJ Tucker has a player option for next year, so the Heat committed to him at 37. It's his choice now. 2 of the 3 gambles have worked out fine. And you know what? Kyle can work out fine. Because if they finish the Sixers and either of the other 2 series go 7, I don't think Dallas-Phoenix will, but it might. I do very much think Milwaukee-Boston could. And the Heat don't open till Tuesday. And Kyle Lowry gets 10 days off. Maybe he comes back fine. And maybe at the end of the next series, we're going, wow, he outplayed the crap out of Marcus Smart right there. They're going to the finals. And all of a sudden you got, Kyle Lowry and Chris Paul, average age 40-something in the NBA finals. And no one's talking about age anymore. There is redemption time for Kyle Lowry, but the clock keeps ticking. And that's a concern right now. I do not believe, I do believe there's a certain point, a certain level of the playoffs where God bless Gabe Vincent, but you're simply getting into the Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, Chris Paul level, and that's a lot to ask of someone. Right now, in this series, against an older James Harden, against a young, still learning the game Tyrese Maxey, it's one thing, and the horrific guards that the Sixers have coming off the bench. But at a certain point, you're going to need Kyle. So you got to get him in the best shape. And Kyle Lowry, all of a sudden, is back in a prove-it moment.
And we're up against the break.
Always.
Maybe seriously. Maybe it's unfair to play the result, but that's what we're going to do. Because guess what? If for whatever reason,
5-0.
And if for whatever reason they don't advance to the NBA Finals and Kyle Lowry's injury is a reason why, however big the reason, do you really think the Miami Heat are going to want to go through next season where they may be putting themselves in a position where it happens again? Then everybody is questioning, that's the best condition.
And that's going to be our offseason talking point. And is Gabe Vincent good enough to go through a whole season with? Do they need to get another full-time backup point guard? Could Goran Dragic at 37, even at his age, be a guy who'll come back at the minimum and at least give them a guy you can throw out in spot minutes or something like that? Clay, that'll become the talking point. Look, we know after these playoffs, we're not doubting Jimmy Butler. Eric Spoelstra says we're not allowed to doubt Bam Adebayo. So we'll take Eric's word on that. Tyler Hero, even if it's been uneven lately, he's an award winner. No one this summer is going to doubt Tyler Hero. And I know that when we watch our Local 10 Sunday sports show, you and Will Manso were saying to Pat Riley, give Tyler the bag, give him his extension. And I think we'd agree with that. So you're right. This could become the summer of Lowry. And you know what? And I know we're running late, but I don't care. It's a podcast. It's the internet. And I will say this also. This is the very decision the Toronto Raptors made last summer.
Yeah.
They could have kept Kyle. They could have given his bag of money. He would have stayed. But they said, you know what? We've got to transition to Fred VanVleet. We've got to move on. We've got to look to our young players. That could become our summer this summer. The difference is Kyle was a free agent last summer. Toronto can simply go, God bless you, retiring your number, not going to give it to Goran, don't worry about it, and we're going to move on. The Heat can't do that. The Heat still have over $50 million sitting on their contract. They got to find a way to make it work.
Coming up next, because Ira likes to talk long, the who steps up to lead the Heat to a Game 6 victory, and I am going to rail on the media narratives from last night that I am so sick and tired of hearing.
F the media. Right, F them.
We're all terrible. That's next.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.